want to explain something about being a comic fan or a fan of certain things from the comics. And today I want to talk about certain things about people and certain YouTubers having an unfortunate argument saying that I am a comic book fan type of thing. And I want to know why that doesn't make much sense. One, not actually being used for what could be a fan of something from the comics. Now, this is one of certain ways. For starters, to be a comic book fan, it cannot be something you enjoy from the comics, and that's the usual stuff. It has to go like almost everything that's been known or unknown by the comics. Like, for example, I am also a Marvel fan. But I don't just be a Marvel fan because I like the usual stuff of Marvel. I go through a more open way of being a fan of Marvel, of going the certain things that I normally wouldn't notice of being a Marvel Comics fan. For starters, I really like the concept of other symbiotes besides just Venom. I have been interested for years to show that that's how I am a Marvel fan. As well as other characters that make me show that that's the first thing about being a fan in certain things in comics, or being a comic fan in general. You have to like almost a lot of things that involves comics, not just the usual stuff. Like the usual thing of you see with symbiotes, with Venom and Carnage. But then if you just only like certain things about Venom and Carnage, then you're not really a comic book fan of Marvel Comics. I really have been interested when it comes to his other symbiotes such as Toxin and Riot. And also I have interested in Shao Ball's Silver Surfer, as well as many of the characters from the Black Panther movies. Oh, speaking of, the second way you can become a Marvel Comics fan is by, actually noticing certain things that you might know about comics. This is what a lot of people claim when they are Marvel Comics. When there are certain fans of certain things in comics, is that they don't have certain things that are barely or ever been known by comics. They just think that it's okay to be a comic fan of certain things once it's the aforementioned, just the thing they like about the usual thing in comics, which I already said doesn't mean you should be just a fan about it. And not knowing certain things about certain comics. And this leads me to the second point. Them avoiding certain things about certain comics, wanting to prove that you think it's alright to be a comic book fan. It says not. You would not know about certain things about comics. Yes, that's alright. But one thing these people claim about being a comic book fan does is just ignore the things that they don't even know about in the comics. And that's why they get blamed for not being a comic book fan when they don't like the MCU, because they're not exploring enough of certain things that many or not a lot of people don't know about comics. Third reason. Third reason, not understanding and being way too confused about certain changes in comics. For some reason, they're not accepting the fact that certain changes in the comics would be less of an issue of the story in the heroes than the story, and more that have to do with the fact that it can create different ideas that are different enough to show we're not getting stuck in ways of previous years in comics. Like how irritating it was for Superman and Lois Lane constantly being rescued by Superman, or her constantly not knowing who Superman's secret identity is. It's more of a reminder of certain changes in the comics that what before happened will work in the early days, but not to continue on being that way for years and years to come. Some reason they think it's okay to be a comic fan, to just be stuck in the same way of having a comic book character over and over again for years to come. It's not. And one of the reasons why is because it gets irritating. Tell me, how many times do you ever notice how irritating it would be if we had a bunch of comics where there's that one single character that has one single love relationship or love interest to one character over years? Or how annoying it is a superhero fall in love with the person they rescued. Answer, it does not need to be stuck that way for years. Or how many times have you seen the comic books where it almost always is a good idea to stuck with the usual version of the character? It does not. Like how annoying it would be to have a comic book where every time he's around, you have Barry Allen or Wally West's version of the Flash. Once in a while, you have to have certain changes. And finally, not going beyond what certain things in comics have of being of certain things in family comics. I mentioned before that I'm a fan of Marvel Comics, but I don't go just what is in comics. I go beyond that. Go in certain ways of comic book characters to confirm the canon, go into certain questions of canon to figure out what is or isn't going on in that story, where that it actually happens or not. See, being a fan of certain things in comics doesn't go certain things you know or don't know about comics. It's more than that. It can be a bit more than that. It can experience what you have or reading in a comic of any other thing you have of experiencing reading a comic to be a certain fan of a comic book. I'm Matt the Comic Guy. See you next video soon. Bye.